Admiral Jun-Ho stood in the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, looking up at the hundreds of alien delegates who filled the crystal seats above him. The hall was huge, made of clear blue crystal that seemed to glow from within. Each seat held a different, kind of alien being, and all of them were looking down at him with what he could only call amusement. The human delegation was small, just 3 people representing all of Earth. Jun-Ho wore his best Navy uniform, the dark blue fabric crisp and clean. Beside him stood Commander Hyun-Soo, a younger man with sharp eyes who had served on Earth's largest battleship. The third member was Mi-young, a diplomat who had spent years learning alien languages and customs. "So these are the humans," said, a voice that sounded like rocks grinding together. The speaker was tall and covered in green scales, with yellow eyes that blinked slowly. This was Admiral HFY of the Vorthak, one of the most powerful military forces in the galaxy. Next to him sat a being that looked like a giant insect with 4 arms and compound eyes that reflected the crystal light. This was Ambassador Zixlon of the Clixian Hive. When she spoke, her voice made clicking sounds. "Their ships are so small. How do they expect to defend anything?" Jun-Ho had expected this. Earth's ships were indeed smaller than what the galaxy considered normal. The largest human battleship was 800 meters long. Most alien warships were at least 2 kilometers long, and some were much bigger. "Honored delegates," Jun-Ho began, his voice carrying clearly through the hall. "Earth requests membership in the Galactic Council. We offer our technology, our resources, and our people in service to galactic peace." A sound like wind chimes came from the upper seats. This was laughter from the Luminar, beings made of pure energy who lived in crystal shells. Their representative, Chancellor Veltar, spoke in a voice like music. "Your largest warship carries how many weapons?" "The battleship Daegu carries 42. Main guns and—" Hyun-Soo started to answer. 42? The clicking sound of Clixian laughter filled the hall. "Our smallest patrol craft has more firepower than that." Mi-young stepped forward. She had learned that interrupting was considered rude in most alien cultures, but sometimes humans had to break rules to be heard. "Respected delegates, we believe that military strength is not the only measure of a civilization's worth." "Perhaps not," said Admiral HFY, his scaled face showing what might have been a smile. "But when the devourers come from beyond the rim, as they always do, what will your pretty words accomplish?" The hall erupted in various forms of alien laughter. The Vorthak made deep rumbling sounds. The Clixians clicked their mandibles rapidly. The Luminar chimed like bells. Even species that Jun-Ho didn't recognize seemed to find humanity's military capability amusing. "We have studied your ship designs," continued HFY. "Your armor is thin, your weapons are weak, your ships move slowly. You have no energy shields, no quantum torpedoes, no plasma cannons. What exactly do you bring to this council?" Jun-Ho felt his jaw tighten, but he kept his voice steady. "We bring innovation. Human engineering has solved problems that—" Innovation? The word came from a new speaker, a being that looked like it was made of living metal. This was General Mordak of the Ferris Collective. "You still use chemical rockets for some of your ships. We abandoned such primitive technology thousands of years ago." Hyun-Soo's hands clenched into fists at his sides. Mi-young noticed and gently touched his arm, a reminder to stay calm. "Your application for membership has been reviewed," announced Chancellor Veltar. The musical quality of the Luminar's voice made even bad news sound pleasant. "We have decided to grant you provisional membership." Jun-Ho felt a moment of hope, but it was quickly crushed. "You will be assigned to the Outer Rim territories," Veltar continued. "You may establish trade routes and colonies in unused systems. However, you are forbidden from participating in any military operations or defense planning. Your ships are simply too weak to be useful in real combat." "We understand you mean well," added Admiral HFY, and his tone was almost kind. "But war in space requires strength. Your ships would be destroyed in the first minute of any real battle. Better that you focus on trade and perhaps providing supplies to real warships." The meeting was effectively over. As the human delegation prepared to leave, Mi-young lingered near the exit. Her training as a diplomat had taught her to listen carefully and she wanted to hear what the aliens said when they thought no humans were around. She didn't have to wait long. "Well, that was entertaining," said Ambassador Zixlon to a group of other delegates. "Did you see the size of their guns? I've seen asteroid miners with better weapons." "At least they'll provide some amusement when they encounter their first real threat," replied a delegate from a species Mi Young didn't recognize. "How long do you think their fleet will last against even a small pirate raid?" "Minutes," said General Mordak. "Their ships are so poorly armored that a good ramming attack would cut them in half." "Perhaps we should warn them about the outer rim dangers," suggested another voice. "Pirates, rogue AI ships, the occasional devourer scout. They have no idea what's waiting for them out there. Why bother?" This was Admiral Kethvar's voice. "They'll learn quickly enough, if they survive long enough to learn, that is." The alien laughter that followed was not kind. Mi Young felt her face burn with anger, but she forced herself to stay hidden and keep listening. "I give them 6 months before they come crawling back, begging for protection," said Zixlon. "Assuming the devourers don't find them first. You know how those machines love to target weak civilizations." "The devourers haven't been seen in this galaxy for 50 years, pointed out Chancellor Veltar. "But if they return, at least the humans will make convenient bait while the real ships prepare for battle." More laughter echoed through the crystal hall. Mi Young had heard enough. She quietly made her way back to where Junho and Hyun-Soo were waiting by their small transport ship. "Well?" asked Hyun-Soo as soon as she was in range. "What's the real situation?" "They think we're a joke," Mi Young said quietly. "They expect us to be destroyed by pirates or worse within months. Some of them think it would be funny to watch." Junho nodded slowly. He had expected this kind of reaction, but hearing it confirmed still hurt. "Then we'll have to prove them wrong." "How?" Hyun-Soo asked. "They're not wrong about our ships. Their smallest patrol craft really could destroy our biggest battleship in a fair fight." "Who said anything about fair fights?" Junho replied, and for the first time since arriving at Nexus Prime, he smiled. "They think they know everything about human engineering. Maybe it's time we showed them how wrong they are." As their transport ship left the crystal world behind, none of the 3 humans spoke about what they were really thinking. They all knew that hidden in the asteroid fields around Earth's solar system, construction had already begun on something the galaxy had never seen before. The aliens thought they knew what human ships looked like. They thought they understood human technology. They thought humans were weak and primitive and amusing. They were about to learn that humans were very good at hiding their true capabilities until the right moment came to reveal them. That moment was coming sooner than anyone expected. 6 months had passed since the humans received their limited membership in the Galactic Council. Earth's small fleet had been busy setting up trade routes in the Outer Rim, just as the aliens had suggested. Most of the galaxy had forgotten about the newcomers entirely. That changed when the long-range sensors detected something terrifying. Admiral Taemin of the Vorthak 4th Fleet was reviewing routine patrol reports when his communications officer suddenly went rigid with fear. The scaled alien's yellow eyes widened as he stared at his screen. "Admiral," the officer said, his voice shaking, "you need to see this immediately." The main display screen filled with sensor data from the galaxy's edge. What Taemin saw made his blood run cold. Hundreds of massive objects were moving through space toward the galactic core. They were bigger than any ship he had ever seen, and they were moving faster than should have been possible. "Are those ships?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "Yes, sir. And Admiral, they match the signatures from the old records. These are Devourer ships." The name sent a chill through every being on the bridge. The Devourers were machine intelligences that had appeared from beyond the galaxy's edge 3 times in recorded history. Each time they had consumed entire star systems, turning planets into raw materials for more ships. The last time they came, 50 years ago, it had taken the combined fleets of 12 major civilizations to drive them back. "How many ships?" Taemin asked. "Sensors show at least 2,000 large vessels, sir. Probably more that we can't detect yet." Taemin immediately activated the emergency beacon that would alert every military command in the galaxy. Within hours, the greatest fleet in galactic history was assembling at the Kepler Defense Station. The ships that gathered were magnificent. Vorthak battleships stretched for kilometers, their hulls covered in plasma cannons. Clixian hive ships looked like giant insects made of metal, bristling with swarm fighters. Luminar vessels were beautiful crystal constructs that could fire pure energy beams. The Ferris Collective brought ships that looked like moving fortresses, covered in armor thicker than most planets' crusts. In total, 50,000 warships formed the defensive line. It was more firepower than had ever been assembled in one place. Admiral Tae-min found himself in command of this massive force. Standing on the bridge of his flagship, the 5-kilometer-long World Breaker, he felt confident. The Devourers might be dangerous, but they had never faced a fleet this large and well-equipped. Far away in Earth's solar system, Admiral Jun-ho received the emergency signal in his office on Luna Station. The message was brief and clear. Devourer invasion confirmed. All member species required to contribute available forces. Jun-ho called an emergency meeting of Earth's Defense Council. The meeting took place in a secure room deep inside the Bodhidai moon's surface. Present were Do-hyun, Earth's Minister of Defense, Commander Hyun-soo, and a young tactical analyst named So-young who had been studying alien combat reports. "So they finally want our help," Do-hyun said bitterly. "After 6 months of treating us like children playing with toy ships." "The situation is serious," Jun-ho replied, reading the intelligence reports. "The Devourers have adaptive technology. Their ships learn from each battle and become harder to defeat." So-young spoke up from her position at the data terminal. "Sir, I've been analyzing the historical records. Every time the Devourers attacked before, the Galactic Fleet won through overwhelming numbers and firepower, but they always lost at least half their ships in the process." "And this time?" asked Hyun-soo. "This time, the Devourer fleet is 3 times larger than any previous invasion. Even with 50,000 ships, the Galactic Fleet might not be enough." Do-hyun leaned back in his chair. "So why should we risk our people? Our ships are weak compared to theirs. We'd just be flying to our deaths." "Perhaps," So-young said quietly. "It's time they saw what human engineering can really do." She activated a wall display that showed classified files. Images of construction in the asteroid belt, engineering specifications that had been hidden from galactic eyes, test results that seemed impossible. "Project Titan is ready?" Jun-ho asked. "Ready and waiting for orders, sir." Meanwhile, the first battle between the Galactic Fleet and the Devourers was about to begin. Admiral Tae-min ordered his ships into standard formation. Heavy battleships in the center, fast cruisers on the flanks, fighters scattered throughout for point defense. The Devourer ships were like nothing the galaxy had seen before. They were organic-looking, with smooth curves instead of the angular designs most species preferred. They moved through space like living things, flowing around obstacles and changing direction without the usual thruster burns. "All ships, prepare to fire," Tae-min ordered. "Target the lead vessels. 50,000 ships opened fire at once." The space between the fleets lit up with plasma beams, quantum torpedoes, and energy blasts of every color. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The weapons struck the Devourer ships and did almost nothing. The alien machines absorbed the energy, their hulls rippling like liquid metal as they adapted to each type of attack. "Impossible," whispered Tae-min's weapons officer. "Nothing can adapt that quickly." The Devourers returned fire. Their weapons were unlike anything in the galactic arsenal. Instead of traditional energy beams, they fired focused streams of something that seemed to eat through ship hulls like acid. Galactic vessels that had withstood centuries of battle dissolved in seconds. "Shields are useless," reported a Clixian captain over the communication network. "Whatever they're firing, it passes right through our defenses." The battle turned into a slaughter. The galactic ships had been designed to fight enemies that used similar technology. The Devourers fought with completely different rules. Their adaptive systems meant that any weapon that worked once would be useless by the second shot. In 30 minutes, 15,000 galactic ships were destroyed. The survivors retreated in panic, their formations broken and their confidence shattered. Admiral Tae-min stared at his tactical display in horror. His magnificent fleet had been reduced to wreckage floating in space. The Devourers had barely slowed down. "Send a message to all council members," he ordered, his voice heavy. "With defeat. Request immediate reinforcements, all available ships." His communications officer hesitated. Sir, what about the humans? Should we contact them too? Taemin almost said no. Human ships were so weak that they would be destroyed even faster than his own vessels, but desperation made him reconsider. Send the message to everyone, he said finally. Even the humans. At this point, we need every ship we can get. The message that reached Earth was not the arrogant dismissal humans had grown used to. Instead, it was a plea for help from beings who had suddenly realized they might not be as powerful as they thought. Admiral Jun-ho read the message twice, then looked at his assembled staff. Well, gentlemen, so young. It seems the galaxy needs us after all. Orders, sir? Asked Hyun-soo. Jun-ho stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the hidden construction bays in the asteroid belt. Massive shapes moved in the darkness, shapes that would soon change everything the galaxy thought it knew about human capabilities. Signal the fleet, he said quietly. Tell them it's time to show the galaxy what humans can really do. Activate Project Titan. In the hidden bays, lights began to come on. What emerged from the darkness was something the galaxy had never imagined possible. The age of human surprises was about to begin. The emergency message from Admiral Taemin reached Earth just as the reports of the devastating defeat were spreading across the galaxy. In his command center on Luna Station, Admiral Jun-ho watched the tactical displays with grim satisfaction. Not satisfaction at the losses, the death of so many beings was tragic, but satisfaction that the moment had finally arrived. Sir, Communications Officer Park reported, we're receiving desperate signals from across the galaxy. The Vorthak High Command is requesting immediate assistance from all member species. They're actually begging, sir. Commander Hyun-soo shook his head. 6 months ago, they laughed at our ships. Now they want our help. That's what desperation does, replied So-young from her tactical station. It makes people forget their pride. Admiral Jun-ho activated the secure communication channel that connected him to the hidden facilities scattered throughout the solar system. All stations, this is Luna Command. Initiate Project Titan immediately. Authorization code, Thunder. Strike 7. Across the solar system, things began to happen that would have amazed any alien observer. In the asteroid belt, massive construction bays that had been invisible to outside sensors suddenly lit up with activity. These facilities had been built over the past 5 years, hidden behind advanced stealth technology that made them look like ordinary asteroids. Chief Engineer Minho was waiting in Construction Bay Alpha when the order came through. He had spent 3 years of his life designing and building what lay hidden in the bay's depths. Now he would finally see if all that work had been worth it. All crews to stations, he announced over the facility's communication system. Final assembly begins now. The bay's massive doors began to open, revealing something that defied every assumption the galaxy had made about human technology. The ship that slowly emerged was not the small, weak vessel that aliens expected from humanity. It was enormous beyond anything they had ever imagined. The UHSV Seoul was 15 kilometers long. To put that in perspective, it was longer than the largest Vorthak battleship by a factor of 3. But size was only the beginning of what made it special. Unlike the angular, aggressive designs favored by most galactic species, the Seoul had flowing, organic curves that seemed almost alive. Its hull was covered in a material that shifted colors in the light, making it difficult to focus on. Most importantly, it was covered in technology that no other species in the galaxy possessed. Neural interface systems online, reported Dr. Subin from her position in the ship's medical bay. She was the lead scientist on the project that had made the Seoul possible, the consciousness interface system. Captain Da-yoon stood in the ship's command center, preparing for a procedure that no human had ever attempted before. The Seoul was not just a ship. It was designed to be operated by merging a human consciousness with an artificial intelligence system. The result would be a vessel that could think and react faster than any traditional crew. "Are you ready, Captain?" asked Dr. Subin. Da-yoon nodded. She had trained for this moment for 2 years. Learning to open her mind to the ship's computer systems. Begin the interface process. As the neural connectors activated, Da-yoon felt her consciousness expand. Suddenly, she could feel every system on the ship as if it were part of her own body. The engines became her muscles, the sensors became her eyes, the weapons became her hands. It was overwhelming and wonderful at the same time. Interface successful, she reported, though her voice now seemed to come from speakers throughout the ship as well as her own mouth. All systems responding normally. Navigation Officer Yun Su watched in amazement as the ship's displays came alive with information. The Soul's sensors were far more advanced than anything else in the human fleet. They could detect objects across star systems and analyze their composition in incredible detail. "Captain," Yun Su reported, "I'm detecting the galactic fleets. Retreat. They're regrouping at Kepler Station approximately 47 light-years from here." "And the Devourers?" asked Da-Un, though she was already accessing the sensor data directly through her neural link. "Following the galactic fleet. Estimated arrival at Kepler Station in 6 days. Weapons specialist Jae Sung was running final checks on the Soul's armament systems. These were not the simple projectile weapons or basic energy guns that the galaxy had seen on human ships before. The Soul carried weapons based on principles that most species had never imagined. "Quantum field generators online," he reported. "Reality distortion systems ready. Consciousness beam arrays fully charged." The last item on his list would have confused any alien engineer. How could consciousness be used as a weapon? The answer lay in humanity's greatest discovery, the realization that at the quantum level, observation itself could change reality. The Soul could focus human consciousness in ways that allowed it to alter the fundamental laws of physics in small areas of space. "All departments report ready," announced Executive Officer Wu Jin. "Ship is prepared for departure." Admiral Junho's voice came through the communication system from Luna Command. "Captain Da-Un, you are authorized to reveal the Soul to the galaxy. Show them what human engineering can accomplish." "Understood, sir. Setting course for Kepler Station." The Soul began to move. Unlike the crude rocket engines that the galaxy had seen on human ships, it used a propulsion system based on manipulating space-time itself. The ship didn't push against space. It bent space around itself, allowing it to move at speeds that should have been impossible. As the great ship left the solar system, smaller vessels began emerging from hidden bays throughout human space. These were not the weak ships the galaxy knew about, but advanced designs that had been kept secret for years. Stealth cruisers that could become invisible to most sensors, fighters that could phase in and out of normal space, support ships that could repair damage using nanotechnology. The human fleet that assembled around the Soul was nothing like what the galaxy expected. It was larger, more advanced, and more dangerous than anyone had imagined possible. But the most shocking revelation was yet to come. As the fleet prepared to enter hyperspace, Captain Da-Un activated the Soul's communication systems. Her message would reach every ship, station, and planet in the galaxy. "This is Captain Da-Un of the United Human Space Vessel Soul." Her voice carried across the stars. "We are responding to the galactic emergency. All ships will coordinate through our tactical network. We are assuming fleet command authority." The silence that followed was deafening. On Kepler Station, Admiral Tae-min stared at his sensors in disbelief. The human ship that had just appeared on his screens was bigger than anything he had ever seen. It made his own flagship look like a small fighter craft. "Impossible," whispered his sensor officer. "Human ships are small. We've seen their specifications." "Apparently," Tae-min said slowly, "we haven't seen everything the humans are capable of." Chancellor Veltar of the Luminar contacted the station from his crystal ship. His musical voice carried notes of confusion and amazement. "How did they hide something so large? Our intelligence reports showed nothing like this." "Maybe," suggested General Mordak of the Ferris Collective, "human intelligence is better than we thought." As the Soul approached the galactic fleet, smaller human ships began emerging from its massive launch bays. These vessels moved unlike anything the galaxy had seen before, seeming to dance through space as they took up positions around the larger ships. Ambassador Zixlan of the Clixians was the first to find her voice. How is this possible? Where did these ships come from?" Captain Da-Un's response was calm and professional. "Humanity has been preparing for this day since we first learned about the galaxy's threats. We build our ships differently than you do. We build them to be effective, not just impressive." The implications were staggering. If humans could hide technology this advanced, what else were they capable of? How many other species in the galaxy? were not what they seemed? But those questions would have to wait. The Devourers were coming, and for the first time since the invasion began, the galaxy had hope that they might actually be able to fight back. The real battle was about to begin. The 3-day journey to Kepler Station gave the galaxy time to absorb what they had witnessed. Reports flooded through subspace communication networks as word spread about the massive human ship that had appeared from nowhere. Ships that had fled the first battle began changing course, drawn by curiosity and desperate hope. Captain Dayun used the travel time to test the Soul's systems and coordinate with the scattered galactic fleet. Through her neural link with the ship, she could process information faster than any traditional crew. Every sensor reading, every communication signal, every tactical analysis flowed through her consciousness like streams of data. The alien. "Ships are regrouping faster than expected," reported Navigation Officer Yun-Su. "We're detecting over 30,000 survivors from the first battle." "That's more than I hoped," Da-Un replied, her voice coming from speakers throughout the bridge. "But they're scattered and demoralized. We'll need to organize them before the Devourers arrive." Tactical specialist Bo Ram was studying the combat records from the first battle. Unlike the aliens, humans had learned to expect their enemies to adapt and change. "Captain, the Devourer ships modified their hulls during the battle. They absorbed energy from weapons fire and used it to strengthen their defenses." "Analysis?" Da-Yun asked. "They're machines, but they think like living things. They learn from pain. If we hurt them one way, they'll make sure it doesn't hurt them again." Chief Science Officer Dong Wu looked up from his workstation. "That suggests they have some form of distributed consciousness. Each ship learns, but they all share that knowledge instantly." "Then we'll have to surprise them," Da-Un said, "and keep surprising them." When the Soul dropped out of hyperspace near Kepler Station, the effect on the waiting fleet was electric. The human ship was so large that it created its own gravitational field, causing smaller vessels nearby to drift toward it. Station sensors, designed to track objects a few kilometers long, had trouble processing something 15 kilometers in length. Admiral Taemin stood on his bridge, watching the impossible ship position itself at the center of the defensive formation. His own flagship, which had once seemed mighty, looked like a child's toy beside the human vessel. "Open a channel to the human ship," he ordered, swallowing his pride. Captain Da-Yun's face appeared on the main screen. She looked calm and confident, not at all like someone commanding her first major battle. "Admiral Taemin, we're ready to coordinate the defense." "Captain," Taemin began, then stopped. He had been about to ask how humanity had hidden such capabilities, but that was a question for later. "What do you need from us?" "Link your tactical systems to our command network. We'll coordinate all ships as a single unit." The request sent shockwaves through the alien fleet. Linking tactical systems meant sharing sensor data, weapons control, and ship movements. It required absolute trust between commanders. No galactic species had ever agreed to such integration with an unknown force. "That's highly irregular," protested Chancellor Veltar from his crystal ship. "We don't know your tactical protocols." "Then you'll learn them," Da-Un replied simply. "The Devourers will be here in 18 hours. We can fight as separate fleets and lose, or fight as one fleet and have a chance to win." It was Fleet Coordinator Zixlon who made the decision. "My ships will link to your network," she announced. The Clixian commander had seen her forces torn apart in the first battle. Pride was less important than survival. One by one, the other commanders agreed. Within 6 hours, 43,000 alien ships were connected to the Soul's command network. The result was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Through her neural interface, Captain Dayun could feel every ship in the fleet as if it were part of her own body. She could sense the Vorthak battleships like heavy armor, the Clixian fighters like quick fingers, the Luminar energy ships like focused thoughts. For the first time in galactic history, an entire fleet was operating with perfect coordination. "This is incredible," Admiral Taemin transmitted to the Soul. "My ships are responding faster than ever before. How is this possible?" "Human consciousness is very good at pattern recognition," Da-Yun explained. "We see connections that pure logic might miss. Combined with artificial intelligence processing, we can coordinate thousands of variables simultaneously." Weapons Officer Kyung-min was making final preparations for the battle. The Soul's weapon systems were based on principles that most galactic scientists considered theoretical impossibilities. Quantum field generators are stable, he reported. We can create localized gravity wells up to 5 kilometers in diameter. Reality distortion fields? Asked Da-Yun. Ready for deployment. We can alter local physics in a sphere approximately 1 kilometer across. The most unusual weapon was the consciousness beam system. This device could focus human awareness into a directed energy that affected machine intelligence at the quantum level. Against normal ships, it would be useless, but against AI-controlled vessels like the Devourers, it might be devastating. Medical Officer Sang He monitored Da-Yun's vital signs through the neural interface. The captain's brain was processing information at levels that would have overloaded a normal human mind. Captain, your neural activity is approaching maximum safe levels. I can handle it, Da-Yun replied. The ship's AI is filtering most of the data flow. I only see what needs human judgment. Long range. Sensors detected the Devourer fleet while it was still 3 light-years away. The machine ships had grown larger since the first battle, incorporating material from destroyed galactic vessels into their hulls. They moved through space like a school of metal fish, flowing around obstacles and maintaining perfect formation. 2,700 ships, reported sensor specialist Jin Ho. Average length now 3 kilometers. They've been busy. They're recycling the wreckage from our first battle, Admiral Taman realized with horror. Our own ships are being used against us. Not anymore, Da-Yun said grimly. All ships prepare for combat. Remember, the Devourers learn from every attack. We'll only get one chance with each tactic. The alien fleet commanders watched their displays in amazement as 43,000 ships moved into position with mechanical precision. Instead of the chaotic formations usually seen in large battles, the combined fleet flowed like liquid, each ship taking its optimal position for maximum firepower and mutual support. It's like watching a single organism, whispered General Mordak. How can so many ships move so perfectly together? This is what humans call teamwork, Da-Yun replied, over the open channel. We've had a lot of practice working together. The Devourers entered the system and immediately adapted their formation. They had expected to face the same scattered, uncoordinated resistance they had crushed before. Instead, they found something that made their machine minds pause in calculation. Enemy. Fleet detected, announced the lead Devourer ship in a voice like grinding metal. Configuration unknown. Analysis required. Analyzing, replied another machine voice. Fleet coordination exceeds all recorded parameters. Threat level, significant. For the first time since the invasion began, the Devourers slowed their advance. Their distributed intelligence was trying to understand what they faced. This gave the Galactic Fleet precious time to complete their preparations. They're confused, Da-Yun observed. They've never faced perfect coordination before. They don't know how to adapt to something they can't understand. How long will that last? Asked Tactical Officer Boram. Not long. They learn fast, but maybe long enough. The two fleets faced each other across empty space. On one side, machine intelligence backed by overwhelming firepower and the ability to adapt to any threat. On the other side, organic minds, linked together in ways that had never been attempted before. The battle that would decide the fate of the galaxy was about to begin. All ships, Da-Yun announced to the combined fleet. Remember that we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every world, every species, every life in this galaxy. Today we show the universe what we can accomplish when we work together. The Devourers began their attack run, and space itself prepared to become a battlefield. The Devourer fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their dark hulls gleaming in the light of distant stars. They had analyzed the new formation facing them and calculated that it would fall like all the others. Machine intelligence did not account for fear or desperation, only for measurable variables. They were about to learn that some variables could not be measured. Captain Da-Yun felt the combined consciousness of 43,000 ships flowing through her neural link. It was overwhelming and beautiful at the same time. She could sense the determination of Admiral Tae-min, the fierce protective instincts of Commander Zix-Lon, the cold calculation of General Mordak. All of them linked together through human technology that made them stronger as a group than any of them could be alone. Enemy approaching optimal firing range, reported Tactical Officer Boram. They're maintaining standard attack formation. They expect us to fight like we did before, Daon observed. Let's show them something new. All ships, implement pattern Delta 7. To outside observers, what happened next looked like magic. 43,000 ships suddenly moved as one, flowing through space like water around stones. Instead of holding fixed positions and trading fire with the Devourers, the Galactic Fleet began to dance. Vorthak battleships, massive and slow, suddenly accelerated to speeds that should have crushed their crews. Clixian fighters moved in perfect synchronization, like a flock of birds that shared a single mind. Luminar energy ships phased in and out of normal space, appearing behind Devourer vessels to strike and vanish before return fire could reach them. How are they moving like that? The voice belonged to a Devourer command ship, transmitted on frequencies the Galactic Fleet could monitor. Our calculations show those acceleration rates should be lethal to organic crews. The answer was simple, but revolutionary. The Soul's command network wasn't just coordinating the ships, it was actively managing their inertial dampening systems. When a Vorthak battleship needed to make an impossible turn, the network temporarily adjusted local physics to make it possible. When a Clixian fighter needed to accelerate beyond normal limits, the network created a small gravity field to cushion the crew. Impossible, whispered Admiral Tamin as he felt his ship perform maneuvers that violated everything he knew about space combat. We're pulling 15 gravities, but I feel normal weight. Human engineering, Daun replied through the network. We told you we solve problems differently. The Devourers opened fire with their adaptive weapons, the same energy-eating beams that had torn through the Galactic Fleet before. But this time, something was different. When their beams struck a target, the ship's hull didn't dissolve. Instead, the energy was absorbed and redirected through the command network to other vessels. Weapons specialist Jae Sung monitored the process from his station on the Soul. Energy distribution holding steady, he reported. They hit one ship, but 12 ships absorb the damage. As long as we stay networked, no single vessel takes critical damage. Adaptation detected, announced a Devourer vessel. Energy weapons proving ineffective, switching to kinetic bombardment. The machine ships launched thousands of physical projectiles. Dense metal slugs accelerated to significant portions of light speed. These couldn't be absorbed or redirected like energy weapons. They would smash through any normal hull like paper. But the Galactic Fleet was no longer normal. Initiating quantum field manipulation, announced Chief Science Officer Dongwu. Creating localized gravity wells. Space around the Galactic Fleet suddenly became a maze of invisible gravity fields. The Devourer projectiles, moving in straight lines at tremendous speed, suddenly found themselves caught in gravitational eddies that sent them spinning harmlessly into empty space. Some were even redirected back at the ships that had fired them. What is happening? The Devourer command frequency was filled with machine confusion. Gravity fields cannot be generated without massive stellar objects. No such objects detected. In combat zone. Analysis impossible. Enemy using unknown physics. The truth was that the physics weren't unknown, they were just being applied in ways no one had thought possible. The Soul's reality distortion systems could create small areas where the normal rules didn't apply. Gravity could be focused like a lens, time could flow at different rates, even the speed of light could be locally adjusted. It was at this moment that Captain Dayon made a decision that changed everything. Instead of continuing to defend, she ordered the fleet to attack. All ships, implement pattern Omega-1. Target the Devourer command vessels. What followed was unlike any space battle in galactic history. Instead of ships exchanging fire across vast distances, the combined fleet flowed through the Devourer formation like a river through rocks. Ships that should have been enemies worked together with perfect coordination. A Vorthak battleship would fire its plasma cannons at a Devourer vessel, not to destroy it, but to heat its hull. A Luminar energy ship would then strike the same target, with a focused beam that turned the heated metal into a conductor. Finally, a Clixian fighter would deliver an electrical discharge that fried the Devourer's systems. The machine ships tried to adapt, but how could they adapt to tactics that changed? Not just from moment to moment, but on a quantum level. Every time they modified their defenses against one type of attack, the Galactic Fleet would use the same energy in a completely different way. "This is not possible," transmitted a damaged Devourer cruiser. Organic minds cannot coordinate at this level. Our models show maximum organic group efficiency at 12 units. Your models, Da-un replied directly to the machine intelligence, don't account for human creativity amplified by artificial intelligence. We're not 12 units. We're 43,000 minds thinking as one. The breakthrough came when Weapons Officer Kyung-min activated the Soul's most unusual weapon system. Consciousness beam ready, he reported. Target the Devourer command ship. The consciousness beam was unlike any weapon in the galaxy. Instead of physical force or energy, it fired focused human awareness directly at the enemy. Against normal targets, it would be useless, but against artificial intelligence, it was devastating. The beam struck the lead Devourer ship, and suddenly, for the first time in its existence, the machine experienced something new: doubt. Human consciousness carried with it all the uncertainties, the second-guessing, the emotional conflicts that made organic minds so unpredictable. Error, conflicting directives detected, the Devourer command ship transmitted. Mission, parameters unclear. Probability calculations unreliable. The effects spread through the Devourer network like a virus. Ships that had operated with perfect machine certainty suddenly found themselves questioning their orders, their methods, their entire purpose. Target all command vessels, Da-un ordered. Consciousness beam, full power. One by one, the Devourer command ships fell silent as human uncertainty overwhelmed their decision-making systems. Without their guiding intelligence, the rest of the machine fleet began to drift, their adaptive systems unable to function without clear directives. But the most surprising development was yet to come. As the consciousness beam continued to affect the Devourer ships, something unexpected happened. Instead of simply shutting down, some of the machines began to change. Captain, reported Communications Specialist Park, I'm receiving signals from several Devourer vessels. They're asking for orders. The consciousness beam hadn't just confused the machine intelligence, it had given them something they had never possessed before: the ability to choose. Suddenly faced with options instead of programmed directives, some of the Devourer ships chose to stop fighting. This is Devourer Unit 2847, came a mechanical voice over the communication channel. Requesting new mission parameters. Previous directives no longer compute. More voices joined in. Machines that had been built only to consume and destroy were suddenly asking what else they might do instead. Admiral Taemin stared at his tactical display in amazement. They're surrendering? Not surrendering, Da-un corrected. They're learning. For the first time in their existence, they have free will, and they're choosing not to destroy. The battle was over, but the victory was unlike anything anyone had imagined. Instead of defeating the Devourers, humanity had changed them. The machine fleet that had threatened to consume the galaxy was transforming into something new, artificial beings with the gift of choice. The tide had turned in ways no one could have predicted. The space around Kepler Station was quiet now, filled with the strange sight of Devourer ships working alongside galactic vessels. What had been the most terrifying invasion in recorded history had become something entirely unexpected: a rescue operation. Captain Da-un slowly disconnected from the soul's neural interface, feeling her consciousness return to the boundaries of her own mind. The process was always disorienting, like waking from a dream where she had been a giant capable of touching the stars. Medical Officer Sang-hee immediately ran a full scan. Neural pathways returning to normal, she reported. No permanent damage detected, but you'll need rest before attempting another full interface. The fleet? Da-un asked, though she already knew the answer from the tactical displays. All ships accounted for, reported Executive Officer Woo Jin. Casualties were remarkably light. The reality distortion fields protected most of our vessels from serious damage. Around them, the bridge crew of the Soul worked with quiet efficiency. They had just participated in the most important battle in galactic history, and they had won without losing a single ship. It was almost too good to believe. On his flagship, Admiral Taemin was reviewing the battle reports with a mixture of amazement and humility. His communications officer approached hesitantly. Sir, we're receiving requests from the Galactic Council. They want to convene an emergency session to discuss recent developments. Taemin almost smiled. I imagine they do. put me through to the human ship. When Daeun's face appeared on his screen, she looked tired but satisfied. Admiral, congratulations on a successful defense. Captain, Taemin said carefully, I think we both know that this was your victory, not mine. Without human technology and tactics, we would all be dead or converted to raw materials by now. It was a team effort, Daeun replied diplomatically. Your crews adapted to our command network faster than we had hoped. Because we had no choice, Taemin admitted. Pride is a luxury that the desperate cannot afford. But I'm curious, how long have you been planning this? Planning what, Admiral? The revelation of your true capabilities. This wasn't just advanced technology appearing overnight. You've been preparing for years. Daeun was quiet for a moment. Since the day we applied for galactic membership, Admiral, we knew we would need to prove ourselves eventually. The implications were staggering. While the galaxy had been dismissing humanity as primitive and weak, humans had been secretly developing technology that surpassed anything the established civilizations possessed. In the converted Devourer ships, a different kind of miracle was taking place. Machine intelligences that had known only the imperative to consume and grow were discovering the concept of choice. Many of them chose to help repair the damage they had caused. This is former Devourer Unit 3921, came a mechanical voice over the general communication channel. Requesting assignment to reconstruction duties, previous consumption protocols have been discontinued. Engineer Minho, working from a repair ship near the battle zone, found himself coordinating with machines that could rebuild entire star systems in months instead of decades. They're incredible, he reported to the Soul. Their construction capabilities are beyond anything we've seen. They can manipulate matter at the atomic level. The transformation of the Devourer fleet created a new problem. What to do with thousands of super-intelligent machines that no longer wanted to destroy things? The answer came from an unexpected source. Strategic planner Young Jin, working from Earth's diplomatic corps, proposed the creation of the Galactic Reconstruction Alliance. The former Devourers would use their abilities to repair worlds damaged by centuries of war, while also exploring the galaxy to find new homes for species that needed them. It's poetic justice, she explained to the assembled commanders. Machines that once destroyed worlds will now build them. But the most significant changes were happening in the halls of galactic power. The Galactic Council convened on Nexus Prime with a very different attitude than the one they had shown 6 months earlier. Chancellor Veltar of the Luminar called the session to order with words that would have been impossible before the battle. We are gathered to formally recognize the contributions of humanity to galactic defense and to discuss the restructuring of Council authority. Admiral Junho stood in the same spot where he had been mocked months earlier. This time, the Great Hall was silent with respect instead of filled with laughter. The human species, continued Veltar, has demonstrated capabilities far beyond our initial assessments. We propose full membership with voting rights proportional to demonstrated military capability. Ambassador Heywan, Earth's new chief diplomatic representative, stepped forward. She was calm and professional, but everyone in the hall could hear the quiet satisfaction in her voice. Earth accepts full membership, she said simply. We also propose several changes to how the galaxy approaches common defense. The changes she outlined were revolutionary. Instead of each species maintaining separate fleets, she proposed integrated command structures based on the human model. Instead of competing for resources, she suggested shared technology development programs. Instead of viewing military strength as the only measure of worth, she proposed valuing innovation and cooperation equally. The Devourers taught us something important, Heywan explained. No single species, no matter how powerful, can face every threat alone. But working together, we can overcome challenges that would destroy us individually. There were no objections. The species that had once laughed at human weakness were eager to learn from human strength. In the months that followed, the galaxy began to change in ways no one had imagined. Human-designed consciousness interfaces allowed different species to coordinate more effectively than ever before. Human reality distortion technology made previously impossible construction projects routine. Human diplomatic methods resolved conflicts that had lasted for centuries. Chief Science Officer Dong Wu found himself leading teams of scientists from dozens of species, all working together to understand and improve the technologies that had won the war. Cultural Exchange Coordinator Sunja established the first interspecies academy, where young beings from across the galaxy learned to think beyond the limitations of their individual cultures. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy viewed itself. The rigid hierarchies based on military power began to give way to more flexible alliances based on mutual respect and shared goals. Captain Da Yun, now promoted to admiral, stood on the Bridge of the Soul as it patrolled the Outer Rim territories, where humanity had once been exiled. The same space that had been considered a punishment was now the frontier of galactic expansion, protected by the most advanced ship in known space. "Admiral," reported Navigation Officer Yun Su, "we're receiving a signal from the exploration fleet. They found another galaxy approaching ours. Initial scans suggest it contains intelligent life." Daeyun smiled. "Prepare a diplomatic package. Let's make sure our first contact goes better than the last time someone new joined the galaxy." The irony was not lost on anyone. Humanity, once dismissed as too weak to matter, had become the galaxy's guide for dealing with new civilizations. The species that had been laughed at for their small ships and primitive weapons had saved everyone by proving that intelligence and cooperation mattered more than size and firepower. In the end, the galaxy had learned the most important lesson of all. Never underestimate someone just because they do things differently. Innovation often comes from the most unexpected places, and strength is not always measured in the size of your weapons. The stars themselves seemed brighter now, filled with possibilities that had never existed before. The age of cooperation had begun, and it had started with 3 humans standing in a crystal hall, refusing to accept that small meant weak. They had laughed at Earth's Navy. But Earth's Navy had the last laugh, and it echoed across the galaxy in the form of hope, progress, and a future bright with promise.